Greetings, family. Shalom, salama, habari. Thank you for joining me once again on yet another edifying lesson on the lost tribes of Yashar'al in Africa. This is Brother Yahuwah ab Yashar'al. So let's move. And of course, you will learn, you will unlearn, and you will be edified a lot. And you will, of course, remove all the untruths, the mis-teachings, and the half-truths taught to us by our awakening or awakened brothers that have no full grasp of especially the proper nations of Yashar'al in Africa. We thank Yahuwah for waking our brothers across the seas, across the islands of the sea, first, and of course to us now in sub-Sahara Africa, and of course all praises to Yahuwah, our Alua. So I will cover biblical evidences, oral history, and of course empirical evidences here and there. I will start with reading scripture. I will start with reading from the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 10. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring my offering. Zephaniah is talking about sub-Sahara Africa. This is beyond the rivers of Ethiopia. Most Israelites are living currently beyond the rivers of Cush. I will also read scripture from Yashar'al, chapter 11, verse 11, which lists the various places, all presently found in Africa, with an exception of the islands of the sea, which is the North America, South America, Europe, the Asia, the so-called Middle East, and of course Australia and New Zealand parts, and the isles across those New Zealand and Australia places, Solomon Islands, Guyana, etc. So I'll read Yashar'al 11 verse 11, Isaiah chapter 11 verse 11. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahuwah shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, from Egypt, from Pathros, from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. Family, just to quip in, my people call Egypt and Ethiopia Emet, and they generally call a big expanse of the land Emet or Emeth up to today. We thank Yahuwah for this awakening. All praises to Yahuwah. Hallelujah, Yahuwah. So family, most of these places are all still found in Africa, with the exception of the islands of the sea, which is in the Americas and across all over the places where most of the Israelites were taken slavery and captive by our enemies, the Edomites and European converts who claim to be us, but of course they are not us. So without wasting time, I'll start with Falasha. Falasha, or Beta Yashar'al, Beta Israel, is a Cushitic tribe in present-day Ethiopia. I have insisted on saying Cushitic family because we have been taught falsely by a majority of awakened and awakening brothers and sisters that Bantus are the only Israelites. In fact, by the way, because we are here, we have a lot of Bantu non-Israelites, we have Bantu Edomites, we have Bantu Canaanites, and we have Bantu Ishmaelites. Yahuwah willing, we will cover this in detail, and we'll be naming the tribes, we'll be giving their oral histories, we'll also be visiting their traditions, and of course, their unique religious festivals and linguistic parallels in the coming weeks. So, Beta Israel is one of the lost tribes of Israel, we have a lot of Cushites who are also not Israel. For instance, we are still doing research about most of them, but we also have a lot of so-called Cushites according to Mzungu classifications. By the way, we have three major classifications of languages according to Mzungu scholars, which is Bantu being the biggest language classification in Africa, the Nilotes, and of course the Cushites. We have other Cushites which I have not included here, like the Oromo, Koromo or Orma, Gabra, the Agau, the Somali, and many others family. I want to dwell with Falasha today. Falasha speak an ancient Ge'ez dialect or Amharic dialect, which is fully Hebrew. Majority of the other Cushites also speak a dialect or an offshoot of ancient Hebrew, and we are going to see majority of them are actually Israelites, and some of them, of course, are not Israel. You see, Cush was an ancient descendant of Ham. So majority of the awakened family will believe that all Cushites are Hamites, which is not true. This is just but a language classification as evidenced done by Muzungu scholars. So today we are debunking that biblically and historically and of course empirically. So Falasha is a Cushitic ancient lost tribe of Israel. Of course, they have a lot of oral traditions. For instance, the Queen of Sheba is said to have visited Shaloma in the ancient land of Yehuda to test his wisdom. People say that she came from Yemen or she came from Kenya, but it is very false. This is just to remove our gaze, the evidence from Ethiopia being the true land of Yehuda. So the ancient land of Yehuda and of course Jerusalem, Jerusalem is of course in Ethiopia, present day Ethiopia. So this story is laced with truths and half-truths. Queen Sheba was already in Ethiopia because she was part of the people that were ancient Israelites family. Queen of Sheba is an Israelite family. She gave birth, of course, she is called Bathsheba. If you want to follow it further, she is called Bathsheba. In my language, Bath means of, Bathsheba, of Sheba. Yeah, meaning the woman of Sheba, because normally Bat is of the woman. It is a revered name given to women. So she gave birth to Solomon. This is a biblical and historical truth. And she was a wife uh, uh, um, to David, not to Solomon, basically. And of course, this Queen of Sheba that came later is another attempt to remove the truth from the true land of Ethiopia. So, family, beware of false information and false teachings. So, again, I'm going to go to the Lemba. The Lemba is also one of the lost tribes of Yashar'al in Africa. We can see this through the oral tradition. The Lemba are Bantu speaking ethnic group in majorly Zimbabwe, South Africa, Malawi, Mozambique, and majorly it has been um, historically proved that they are, of course, part of the lost tribes of Yashar'al. The Lemba, of course, believe they came from Sena or Shenar. We read Shinar earlier. Shinar is still found family in present day Babylon, which is Sudan. It is said they married local Bantu women. You see, even the scholars, Yashar, they still know that these people are, of course, full Israelite, and most of the people they found who spoke Bantu were not Yasharal. This is the reason why you see from this screenshot here that they married local Bantu women. It looks funny, eh? Because majority of us have been led to believe and to follow lies and falsehoods. Of course, their history indicates they migrated from Yemen to Israel to down Zimbabwe, and they also are believed to have built the ancient Zimbabwean kingdom of Mwene Mutapa. But these are all oral histories to support the kingdom of these Lemba Israelite people. Of course, we have the fake-ish people still in the land believing they are us that have done some genetic studies on these Lemba people. How can you compare a Lemba and an Ish person who is from Amalek family? It looks funny. There is no correlation with any genetic testings whatsoever. So that test was null and void. Of course, the Lemba still keep strict dietary laws. They prohibit use of pork, and of course, they do slaughter animals following Levitical ways, and they are very strict with regards to circumcision and traditions. They are performed at 8 years old. We have, of course, perverted this from 8 days to 8 years, but the majority of Israelite communities in Africa nowadays circumcise at 8 years. They also still practice the sacred oral history of migration and, of course, have linguistic parallels with the Falasha of Ethiopia. I don't want to dwell on the linguistics today because it will take a lot of time. So allow me to delve further into other so-called lost tribes of Israel in Africa. I'm going to discuss about the Kalenjin. The Kalenjin are an Nilotic peoples who are descendants of ancient Semitic settlers. You see, family, most of these people who write these things who are not majorly us, they are our colonizers, still know that these people are Semites. They just call them Nilotes to hide the fact that they know the truth. You can see on the highlighted section that these people are Semites and they migrated from Egypt. You will see in Jeremiah chapter 44, Yaramiyahu 44, we still found traces of Yashar'al even after the exodus from Egypt. They went back to Egypt and majority of them were Kalenjin. So family, you see Kalenjins, they have very rich ancient history, and of course, we have a lot of names that we are going to see in the next slide in the Bible, as well as, of course, in the ancient Hebrew that relate or correlate to the present Kalenjin language and the ancient Kalenjin language. Of course, we see their migration story suggests that they migrated from Egypt through Sudan to present-day Kenya, and they settled in Gilgal. It is called Gilgil, present-day name family. And also they settled in Kericho, which is Jericho, after a 40-year period of wandering. And they relied by crossing a lake, and it is said their ancestor Yakober, you can read it by the way, family, it is online, you can Google. Their ancestor Yakober or Yakoba really blessed them by giving them a large herd of cattle, and Mosha or Masha helped them to cross the lake by parting it, by invoking a few words, which you see is Moses in the story of Exodus. So, family, I will show some biblical evidence immediately to support this by reading from First Chronicles chapter 2, verse 9. And you can see, family, that just like the other time, you see, we have been fed a lot of lies about our people. So, First Chronicles, chapter 2, verse 9, the sons also of Hezron that were born unto him, Yaramel and Ram and Chelubai. Chelubai is still up to present day family, a name associated with the Kalenjins. It is also called Caleb. It has been transliterated to Caleb presently. So you can see there's a lot of lies and covering up of tracks by these so-called Bible scholars to hide the truth. I'll also quickly read Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 3. So Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 3, Yashar'al chapter 1 verse 3. It says, the word of the Lord, the word of Yahuwah came expressly unto Yashar'al, the priest, the son of Butzi, in the land of Chaldea, by the river Chebar, and the hand of the Lord was there upon him. Some of the transliterations say Kebar. Kebar, Chebar is still a Kalenjin ancient language and present language, which means to kill or a dead river. You also see family that we have Parath or Par. Par is still to kill in Kalenjin. There's a lot of lies we've been taught to family. We've been taught by our enemies and ancient Bible transliterators, especially Europeans. We need to unlearn this family. I am going to move to the Maasai. The Maasai, of course, are one of the ancient lost tribes of Yashar'al. The Maasai are also found in Kenya and Tanzania. They are also uh, Nilotes by European classification. Of course, they have a lot of origin stories and theories about the Maasai. One of the books written about the Maasai by M. Makar, Dear Maasai, in 1904, is a very powerful book showing the shared cultural practices between the ancient Israelites and the Maasai, especially on the circumcision, traditional medicine, the Moran warriors, of course, the linguistic origin, which we are going to see a few of them quickly, and of course about mosaic, which is also believed to have parted River Nile when they crossed to come these sides of sub-Saharan Africa. So family, most of these tribes have always known that they are part of the ancient tribes, but majority of them did not come out, especially since we were still under the curses. So I'm going to show some empirical evidence. I am going to read from First Chronicles chapter 9, verse 12. Adaiah, the son of Jeroham, Pashur and Malkiah, and Maasai, the son of Adiel, Yajra, Meshulam, Meshilemith, Immer. Of course, these are part of the priestly families of Lauhim, which is Levi in English. So family, you've seen Maasai. Maasai is part of the Luhim family. We can also see by Jekyll Powell Laramatani, which is a Maasai. You can see they practiced majority of the ancient Israelite customs, especially the Pesach. They call it the Pesach. We also see they have a god called Enkai from Pasinai. Enkai e Pasinai from Sinai. Pa is place and Sinai is Sinai. We also have Paran, Syria, Ai, Arus, Alem, and of course, Mesopotamy, and of course, Ntalakwa, Le Lebanon, and Donyo, Le Pasinai. All these names family denote Hebrew speaking languages. So the Maasai have been exploited by majority Europeans, especially on culture. And I was so fascinated when I was growing up. Why Maasai? Why Maasai? Why Maasai? All their shukas have been made to be a spectacle to behold by the Gentile tourists coming to Kenya and Tanzania. So right now, because of this research, we have been able to understand. So these people knew all along that the Maasai were one of the lost tribes. Wonders, family, wonders. We thank Yahuwah for this knowledge. Praise Yahuwah. Yada Yahuwah. So I'm going to go to the Igbo. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this video, family. So the Igbo are one of the peoples in Nigeria. They believe they are the descendants of God, and not just God, also from Ephraim, which is Ephraim, and Manasseh. Of course, there are some also Igbos who believe they come from Shimon. And we thank Yahuwah family because they still kept most of the oral traditions, they say they are descendants of Eri, Arodi, and Areli. And majority of the so-called Israeli scholars have gone to Nigeria to try and make them converts, and they have stood their ground. They've refused to be converted to a fake religion. All praises to Yahuwah. So we can see the oral history and migration of the Igbo. The Igbo say they migrated from Ethiopia, the islands of Ethiopia, all the way to Nigeria. And you can see right now in West Africa, they have been persecuted, especially they were at some point persecuted by being called Biafrans. And majority of the Igbo traditions, especially in the Aguleri community, trace their heritage back to Eri, their ancestor, who is identified in the genealogy of God. So family, we are so proud and so happy that we have been able to learn about our ancestry. We also have other peoples in West Africa, the Yoruba, who are descendants of Kushites and, of course, Yashar'alites, which is Shem. We also have Mandinka, which is the tribe of the king, the president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore. We have the Wolof. We have other peoples like the Eus and others that I'm not going to mention today. All these family are not Bantus, by the way, just to make you know. This lesson has come handy to dispel these untruths, mistruths, and misteachings family. I have been able to see a lot of rumors, stories, teachings purporting to be true, teaching about Bantus being the only tribes in Israel, and of course the awakened Israelites in the Americas, especially in the USA. I've caught up with this and ran with it. This is not true, family. Let us try to keep truth at all times. So the conclusion of this matter, family. So we see there's two sticks coming together, which is Yehuda and Yashar'al. The house of Ephraim, which was given to Joseph, Yahusap family. We can see this especially with the coming wars between Babylon, which is America, modern day Babylon, and of course Medes and the Persians, which is Iran. Uh, Yahuwah has always reversed our curses and put it upon our enemies. Yada Yahuwah. We can just see all prophecies now unfolding, family. Of course, we know the last battle will be fought in Africa because Africa is the promised and the holy land. So, family, thank you for listening to me today. And of course, through the coming weeks, we are going to learn further and further, and we are going to, of course, be more and more edified. So, bye bye, kwaheri, salama, see you next time. Cheers.